I am your kid critic Jack Mooney and welcome to the Jack Mooney Show. And in today's video, I'm looking back at my top 10 worst movies of 2019. Now this year was a little different because I wasn't purposefully going out to see really bad movies. You know, every once in a while I'd be like, okay, that's bad, why don't you just go see it so you can make a list. But a lot of the movies on this list, I was going in with really high expectations, and then afterwards I was like, that was really bad. I disagreed with the critics. I disagreed with public opinion, and those were a lot of movies this year where, I went in with too high of expectations, and then I was really disappointed. Of course, there are movies, really bad movies, that I just don't want to see. Cats. Nothing's going to make me go see Cats. So yeah, there are some movies where they would probably make the list, but I'm just not going out to see them. So yeah, this is my list, the top 10 worst movies of 2019. Let's start out with number 10. I had really high expectations for Doctor Sleep. The first reason why is because I adore The Shining, and I adore Stanley Kubrick as a filmmaker. I think The Shining, the film, is an incredible piece. I think Kubrick's craft in it is so amazing, and it's one of the greatest films of all time. So I was curious to see how this would follow up to that great story. The second reason why I was anticipating this is because the trailers were mysterious, they were dark, they weren't revealing too much, and it sold me. I was like, okay, we're returning to the world of The Shining, bring it on. And after watching it, I was just so sad. And I was thinking, like, how would Kubrick respond to this film? And I think he would be so disappointed and call the film out for so many things. I think he'd call Stephen King out for making a sequel to a great novel. And then he'd call the filmmakers out for, kind of stealing from his film. Yeah. The first two acts of the film, they're lazy. It's weird. It feels like it had a really messy screenplay. They were definitely having trouble adapting King's book to the screen, and it just didn't seem like they knew what they wanted to tell. And by the time the third act came around, it was so depressing to see them taking some of Kubrick's shots from The Shining and then trying to do trying to make it look as similar as possible to Kubrick's amazing shots, and it just was lazy, and I was just so disappointed after, I had recently watched The Shining before I saw this, and I was like, wow, look at what Kubrick was able to do. And then you see this, and it just falls into the trend of movies coming out recently. They're unoriginal. They're stealing from other artists. Hence Jon Favreau with The Lion King. Thank God I didn't see that. But this was just a sad disaster. It didn't make a lot of money at the box office, and you know what? I don't think a lot of people wanted to return to the world of The Shining because Kubrick made an amazing movie that didn't need to be revisited to or stolen from. If you're familiar with my channel at all, you'll know that I don't really like M. Night Shyamalan as a filmmaker. And I get that a few years ago he sort of had his comeback with The Visit and Split, but I've just never really loved his work. Some of his films are okay at best. Unbreakable's okay. Split's okay. The Visit's, it's fine. But I've just never really fell in love with his films. Unfortunately, I fell into the group of people who were sort of looking forward to Glass, and were like, Unbreakable was pretty good, Split was pretty good, and I was going along with that. I was like, whatever, they're okay, but Glass could be good. But after seeing Glass, and after, falling asleep because of how bad it was, I just was like, M. Night Shyamalan, he didn't have a comeback. Because, Split and The Visit may have been better, but, they're still lazy and weak films that aren't really adding anything new to the filmmaking community. So, there's nothing redeeming about Glass. And what's interesting is you do take three really talented actors and you just make them look not very good. Even James McAvoy, who is strong, the best part about Split, and he just seems silly and, thrown into this mess of a film. You know, what they did with Samuel L. Jackson was sad, spoiler alert, Bruce Willis drowning in a puddle at the end. This superhero drowns in a puddle. Wow. This a lot of these films on this list have really bad third acts. Glass is just atrocious. It takes the redeeming qualities about Unbreakable and Split and just throws them out the window and creates a silly mess. It's just a silly mess, and there's nothing good about it. The twists that M. Night Shyamalan's famous for, ooh, these are some of the worst twists yet. It's it's a comedy. I mean, if I was doing a list of the top 10 comedies of 2019, this would be on this list. This film would be on that list. It's just, ooh. And with all the, there's some pretty good superhero films being made today. I just finished Watchmen, an amazing show. Oh my god. But then you look at Glass and you're like, ooh, what happened here? Yikes. It's M. Night Shyamalan. What can I tell you? I was on demand one night and, I was just scrolling through all the movies that were recently released. And I couldn't decide, so I was just like, you know what? I was sort of looking forward to Serenity. There's a good cast. I know it didn't get great reviews, but let's just give it a try. Oof, this wasn't even good, for a movie to watch in my home. It was embarrassing for McConaughey, Hathaway. It was embarrassing for the whole cast. And like Glass, Serenity struggles with weak plot points that drive a movie forward. And there's a big plot point in this film, a twist. I'll reveal it to you right now, or how much I remember of it. And it's that this whole world we've been immersed in is a video game of Anne Hathaway and Matthew McConaughey's son that he created. And it's just like, what? What is this twist? And I've seen some critics praising this twist, like it's so original, we weren't expecting it. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it because it was dumb. It was stupid. If you're going to do something cool, like, ooh, this is a video game, you gotta have clues, okay? And you gotta have an emotional payoff that has this twist make sense. And the reveal that, oh, this is a video game the whole time, it just didn't work at all. And I was like, wait, didn't that happen? Wait, so then how does that make this a video game? And like, what's going on? And why am I watching this? And yeah, it's just, it's such a sad movie. It's a familiar theme with a lot of the movies on this list. Very sad. Yeah, Jason Clarke. I forgot his name for a second, but this is one of the worst performances I've ever seen him in. I loved him in Mudbound, but here he could barely keep his American accent. He was, going back and forth, and it was just like, oh, it's like the actors didn't try it all. But why would you? Because the screenplay sucked. Earlier in the video, when I talked about movies I was looking forward to but was very disappointed by, well, this would be the case for Gemini Man. And, I knew, I saw the reviews, I saw that they weren't great and that people weren't liking the movie, but I was like, you know what, it's Ang Lee. I mean, doesn't it kind of have to be sort of good? But no, Gemini Man, ugh. And I rewatched Life of Pi before I saw this, and, that is such a visual spectacle, clearly showcasing Lee's talents. So, I saw a really good movie, and then I saw this. And nothing really works about Gemini Man. I mean, it feels like a 90s movie, and that's not working in its favor, like, let's say, Venom. No, it just feels like a dated story, and, the way Lee filmed this, I think it was at 120 frames per second. It's just oof, like you don't do that. And then when you show it on these like really advanced projectors, it looks weird and it doesn't look cinematic enough. It looks worse than something you'd see on NBC or ABC. It's just the quality is diminished. And you know the fact of two Will Smiths, that's just so cheesy. It's just Lee used to be an incredible filmmaker. He was doing really daring and really cool projects. But with this and Billy Lynn, it's just like, what's he doing? He's falling into a hole that he can't escape from because he's getting lazy. And I hate it when great filmmakers become lazy because I know what their potential holds. For a long time, I've been a fan of the Fox X-Men movies. I think X-Men Days of Future Past is one of the best superhero movies of all time. So, with a new X-Men movie coming out, even though X-Men Apocalypse wasn't great, I was like, you know what? You know, trust the team. This is the last X-Men movie with this group. It's going to be good. They're going to go out with a bang. It's going to be dark, depressing. It's going to be more focused on drama than action. It's going to be good. I shouldn't have said that. And I think deep down I knew that it wasn't going to be good, but I was just trying to convince myself that this last outing with this X-Men group was gonna go out with a bang. But it really was a train wreck, and the third act actually has a train wreck and is a train wreck. Yeah, it's like a lot of the movies on this list. It's lazy. It's telling a story that already failed on the screen once before with X-Men: The Last Stand, and then Fox decides to bring in the same writer of that movie to not only write this screenplay but direct it as well. I don't know who greenlit that idea. Simon Kinberg is a businessman. He's not a filmmaker. But yeah, it's really sad to see that the high that the X-Men Fox movies were on, and then this happens, and it's just like the potential that this movie had, the things it could have done, and it did the most basic storyline possible. It didn't do anything unique to add to this amazing comic book. It's rough, and you know, hopefully New Mutants will be good. I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever liked a single Fast and Furious movie. I don't know, they're just not my thing, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're so stupid, and you can just turn off your brain and eat a bunch of popcorn, and it's a lot of fun, and I just don't think I enjoy that, and this film more in particular than, like, let's say, Fate of the Furious or Furious 7, this one's really stupid. And it just gets to the point, it's like, why is this redeeming? I can watch a sophisticated spy thriller like Mission Impossible or some of the Daniel Craig James Bond movies like Casino Royale or Skyfall. I can watch those instead of this. It's just, and I don't even think The Rock or Jason Statham are that good of actors. And then some people are like, oh, they're so bad, it's good, and it's like, no. If something is bad or doesn't work, then there you go. It's not good. And that's the case with these Fast and Furious movies, and especially Hobbs and Shaw. It gets so stupid and way over the top, and explosions, huge action scenes that don't really make sense and that don't add anything towards the plot, or you don't understand what's going on. There's this. What's that? It's like that's what this movie is, and I don't enjoy that, and that's what adds to the absurdity of these films. And I once again fell into the trap. I was like, oh yeah, it'll be stupid, it'll be fun. But I should have known better from the trailers. The trailers, they revealed everything. The movie itself, when I was watching, I was like, I feel like I saw all of this. And I know a lot of people say that, but with this movie in particular, they released like three and a half minute trailers, and it just was like, come on, like, you want people to see your movie, why spoil everything, and there was nothing redeeming at the end of it. It just was the same old, same old. Yeah, I mean, Hobbs and Shaw is. Some people will like it. I just didn't, and like like usual with a lot of movies on this list, I was like, maybe I'll like it this time. Maybe I'll like M. Night Shyamalan's movie this time. Maybe I'll like this X-Men movie after Apocalypse. Maybe I'll like this Fast and Furious movie, and I should know better. And this just isn't my movie, and I'm disappointed I went to go see it because it really is a shame with all of the good action movies being made now, and then you got this, and it makes a ton of money. It was one of the highest grossing movies of the summer, and it's really sad. So yeah, incels unite. Yes, you all knew it was going to end up being on this list. Joker is not only one of the worst movies of the year, but it's one of the worst movies of all time. I also think seeing this movie was one of the saddest moments I've ever had in my life. Unfortunately, the first time I saw it, there was this crazy guy laughing and doing horrible things throughout the film and trying to distract everybody in the theater. And I was like, okay, go see it again and really try to understand the movie, see if it's worth the hype. And then the second time I was like, wow, this movie actually is really dangerous, reckless, and just a piece of shit. There's nothing good about this movie, and it's tricking its audience to think it's cool, it's doing something new, it's doing something bold, brave, it's speaking to the working class. Watch Parasite. Parasite, it what Joker attempts to do and fails miserably. Parasite excels at it. It really shows you the underbelly of society. And yeah, I mean, I was looking forward to Joker. It arguably has one of the greatest actors working today, Joaquin Phoenix, as the lead. And I've always preferred DC over Marvel. I love Watchmen. It's one of the greatest comics of all time. I love the show. I love the Nolan films. So, obviously this would be something I was looking forward to. But it's pretentious garbage. And it's sloppy filmmaking. Todd Phillips is copying Martin Scorsese. And I agree with everything Scorsese is saying about Marvel, Joker, and yeah, Scorsese is a genius, and Phillips is he's just a copycat. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's trying to do something cool, but it's not really working out. I mean, the movie's promoting violence. It's dangerous. If somebody who's mentally ill saw this film, I would be scared. I would be scared. It's Joker. And it's sad that all these award shows love the film, because it really is garbage. It's bullshit. When I first saw the trailer for The Kitchen, I was pretty excited. It's Melissa McCarthy's follow-up to Can You Ever Forgive Me, a movie where she gave an emotionally gripping performance. She was nominated for an Oscar for it. So I was interested to see what she would do in her next role, and it also being on the more dramatic side. So I was really curious about it. It's also taking the gangster genre and turning it on its head, having a female-centric film, which is very exciting. And it's also the writer of Straight Outta Compton, which I love that movie, so I was obviously interested to see what she'd do next. She's also directing the film. It also has a great cast. I love Tiffany Haddish. I think she's hilarious. I love Elizabeth Moss, and obviously I think Melissa McCarthy is one of the greatest actresses working today. But after seeing the movie, it's so boring, it's bland, it's uninteresting. What's really cool is they're turning the gangster genre on its head, but they have a really uninteresting story, and I just didn't care about the story at all, and I didn't care about the characters. I think the real problem with the film is in the screenplay. It seems like there's a lot of moments here and there, but it just lacks that spark to drive a scene forward, though, that magical moment. It was all these like moments scattered, and there wasn't that emotional payoff, which made it bland in the end. I think the team behind the film didn't have a grip of what they wanted to do, and also like the team working in front of the camera, the actors, they just didn't really pull me in, especially Tiffany Haddish, which is sad to say. I think she's hilarious, but she seemed like she was trying too hard, and her performance was really forced with this. So yeah, I was really disappointed with The Kitchen. I love the source material from DC Vertigo, and I was interested to see a female-centric gangster film, but in the end, it was quite disappointing. Definitely one of the most disappointing films of the year. It's a great trailer. It's an exciting trailer, but in the end, the movie's just it's boring, it's messy, and it's bland. I don't recommend you watch it. Not even for streaming or something. It's not very good. So yeah, The Kitchen, number 3. Rewatching this trailer reminded me how bad this movie actually was. And it wasn't a fun bad. I went into this movie being like, okay, maybe it'll be so bad it's good. I could laugh at how bad it is. No, it's not even that. This movie is atrocious. And it's really quite sad because the horror movies coming out nowadays are incredible. There's Get Out, Us, Hereditary, Midsummer, The Witch, even The Lighthouse. The horror genre is booming right now. It's in places it's never been before. So when something like Countdown comes out, it just reminds you about the horrible horror movies that were coming out in like the early 2000s. It fits into that category really nicely. And it's really disappointing because there's a lot of great horror movies being made nowadays, and then we get this. I feel like moviegoers should be treated better than Countdown, and it's a really stupid movie. It's poorly shot. The screenplay is atrocious. Like the dialogue in this movie, it's really bad. The performances aren't great. The Kitchen, yeah, that lacked the spark that makes movies good. This has nothing redeeming about it at all. Countdown is horrible, and you can see it in the trailer too that this movie is going to suck. Also, around halfway into the movie, they try to do this Me Too twist to try to make it like current and add a political theme into the film, which is a great idea, but it's poorly executed. It doesn't fit into this movie at all. It makes it look cheesy, which is really quite sad. It's just stupid. Like an app that tells you when you're going to die, and then there's these spirits, and then they go to this priest or something. I am embarrassed for the people who made this movie. Countdown, it's bad. There's nothing good about it at all. And when I was thinking, I was like, man, what could be worse than Countdown? Well, there is one movie that is worse than Countdown, and yeah, number 1's pretty bad. But Countdown, it's atrocious. I think Pet Sematary has one of the worst lines of the year. It was something like, "You dumb cow," and that sums up this movie and how silly and ridiculous it is. And it's not redeeming at all. I went into the movie expecting something like it. I thought that, filmmakers weren't having trouble adapting Stephen King novels anymore because it was a pretty good movie. So I had faith in Pet Sematary. It's also from Paramount, and they did A Quiet Place. So yeah, there were a lot of things going towards this movie, but it's just silly, it's nonsense, it doesn't make any sense, and, when a movie's laughable, then it's really bad, and there was nothing really redeeming about laughing at it. I was upset that I spent money on this film, and I was like, what am I doing sitting in this theater when there's probably a good movie out there somewhere that I could be watching right now? It's really unfortunate, and there seems like there's a common theme with movies on this list. This is like the 3rd horror movie. I'm not counting Glass. This is the 2nd movie with Jason Clarke. Ooh, he had a bad year. And this is the 2nd Stephen King adaptation. It's just filmmakers are once again having trouble adapting King's work to the screen. With this, Dr. Sleep, even a little bit with It Chapter 2. And I think King would be disappointed with how silly and ridiculous this movie ends up being. Because if this was really serious and emotional and just a really frightening film, I think it would work. But with bringing the cat and the daughter back to life, it's just like, what is going on? Am I watching, like, I don't know, like a Lifetime horror movie? I don't even know if that's a thing, but that's what it feels like. It feels made for television, and what's really sad about it is it sort of feels like the filmmakers were trying to make a good movie, but it's just they weren't trying enough because the movie's really ridiculous. I really don't think you should see this movie. I mean, all these movies on this list are bad, but this one, I think you would be ashamed to watching it. It's horrible. It's atrocious. It fucking sucks. So yes, those are my top 10 worst movies of 2019. You know, looking back on the list now, I'm like, wow, there actually were a lot of bad movies that came out this year. And what's weird about this year is that it seems like a couple of the movies on my list the critics either liked or the public really enjoyed. I know that's true with Hobbs and Shaw and Joker especially. But yeah, those were my 10 worst movies of the year. But yeah, comment below what your top 10 worst movies of the year are. And I know coming soon, I will be doing my countdown of the top 10 best movies of 2019, and I will also be doing my Oscars montage. So yeah, look out for those, and as usual, have a great day at the movies.